So these are the objectives of our presentation. So at the end of the discussion, student will learn more about sugar and the effects of excessive sugar intake in the human body. And also they will know the differences of reducing and non-reducing sugar. And they will going to understand the reaction of sucrose to Benedict's test. So these are the contents of our presentation. A for introduction and schematic diagram, B for guide question, and C for references. Good day everyone. So in this video presentation, we're going to discuss the activity 7, which is the classifying of sugar. So sugar are naturally found in fruits, plants, vegetables, and grains, and as well as in products like milk and cheese. And it's already discussed to us that sugar is classified in a family of molecules, which is saccharides. So the first one is monosaccharide, which has 1 sugar molecules. The next one is a disaccharide, which has 2 sugar molecules, and the oligosaccharide, which has 3 to 6 sugar molecules, and the polygosaccharide, which has more than 6 sugar molecules. So in this experiment, what we're going to do is we're going to identify which is the non-reducing sugar and the reducing sugar. And also we're going to prove that fruits have different kinds of sugar. So let's start. Sugar solution. So we have here glucose, fructose, sucrose, and lactose. So glucose is the most common or important carbohydrate present in food today. It can be found in all fruits and vegetables. Fructose is fruit sugar as it occurs free in fruit. So glucose and fructose is a monosaccharide molecule. So next, sucrose. This is the table sugar typically used as an added sweetener for many recipes. And lactose is the sugar that's in milk, composed of glucose and galactose. So sugar and lactose is a disaccharide molecule. Sugar from fruits. So fruits contains 3 types of sugar, which is the fructose, glucose, and a combination of the two called sucrose, which makes up table sugar. Sugar solution and sugar from fruits schematic diagram.
Okay, so now let us move on to the schematic diagram. We have 2 types of schematic diagram, the sugar solution and the sugar from fruits. So let us first go to the sugar solution. So the first thing we need to do is to prepare 4 test tubes, and then these 4 test tubes will be labeled. In test tube number 1, we need to label it as glucose. Then the second is fructose, third is sucrose, and the fourth test tube is lactose. Then after we label the test tubes from 1 to 4, we are going to add each test tube 30 drops of samples according to its labeled test tubes. So sa test tube number 1, nakalabel man siya o glucose, so mag-add tayo ng 30 drops of samples na glucose. Then same as sa fructose, sa sucrose, and then sa lactose. Lastly, we are going to add 5 drops of Benedict solution to each test tube from 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then, we carefully heat the test tubes by suspending them in a hot water bath at about 40 degrees Celsius. The next schematic diagram is the sugar from fruits. After that, we need to prepare 3 types of fruits. We prepare a test solution by crushing the fruits and adding a moderate amount of distilled water. Decant the suspension to remove large particles na mga naiwan sa mga fruits na i-crush natin. And then after that, use the decanted liquids as the test solution. Then dito naman, mag-a-add naman tayo ulit ng Benedict solution. Lastly, we are going to record our observations in Table 8.1 and Table 8.2.
So guide question. Let's proceed to number 1. Explain the reaction of sucrose to Benedict's reaction explained with structural illustration. So this activity, Benedict test, was performed. So as we all know, Benedict test is to identify the non-reducing sugar or reducing sugar. And we have here 3 carbohydrates. depicted from left to right, fructose, glucose, and sucrose. Based on the Benedict test, sucrose remains color blue, which means sucrose is a non-reducing sugar. Why? Because sucrose only has acetyl anomeric carbon. So when we say acetyl anomeric carbon, it is a no alcohol, which means no presence of aldehyde or ketone. If they can't form aldehyde in the first place to get iodized, so therefore they can't reduce other compound. That's why it is a non-reducing sugar. So acetal has only acetal carbon na group. Since acetal don't open up to aldehydes under the basic of condition present in the Benedict test, sucrose gives a negative test or blue in the Benedict solution. So in the structure, there's a very easy way to determine whether it's reducing or non-reducing sugar. What you do is to look for the numeric carbon. If it is hemiacetal, it is a reducing sugar. If it is acetal, it is a non-reducing sugar. And that's all.
So number 2, what is the difference between non-reducing sugars to reducing sugars? A reducing sugar is a sugar that has a free aldehyde or ketone that can act as a reducing agent. On the other hand, a non-reducing sugar does not have a free aldehyde or ketone, so it cannot act as a reducing agent. So yung mga reducing sugars daw, they have aldehyde and ketone. And then yung mga non-reducing ay wala. And then reducing sugars have the capacity to reduce cupric ions of benedicts or filling solution to cuprous ion. And then yung mga non-reducing sugars naman is the sugar failed to reduce the cupric ions of benedict solution to cuprous ion. And then yung mga examples naman ng reducing sugars are maltose, lactose, melibiose, celobiose, and gentobiose. And then yung mga example ng non-reducing sugars are sucrose and tehalose.
Number 3, the use of sugars in human body. Sugars are a source of energy for the body during intense physical activities. There are main energy source. There are no nutritional difference among sugars. The body uses all types in the same way during digestion. Sugars such as sucrose and lactose and other carbohydrates such as starches break down into simple or single sugars. The brain and red blood cells can only use glucose for energy. And during pregnancy, glucose also helps from cells and produce milk. The body can make its own glucose and gets it from food.
Next, we have the effects of excessive sugar intake in the human body. As we have heard earlier, sugar is a great source of energy to our body, but it has also bad effects if we take sugar excessively inside our body. So, common dito is the diabetes. As we all know, sugar occurs naturally in all foods that contain carbohydrates such as fruits and vegetables, grains and dairy. Consuming whole food that contains natural sugar is okay. Problems occur when you consume too much added sugar. When we say added sugar, that is sugar that food manufacturers add to products to increase or extend shelf life. So dito na papasok ang problem natin na increased heart disease. In heart diseases, sugar increases the amount of insulin resistance and the risk of diabetes. And when you all have those fat cells, they send out inflammatory which create more damage in the vascular wall, which precipitate plaque. Plaque is a waxy fatty substance made up of fat, cholesterol, and other substance found in the body. It also hardens our arteries and limits the flow of oxygen-rich blood to our different parts of the body. So yung may mga diabetes, nadadamage yung inside ng blood vessels nila, including the arteries that supply blood and oxygen to the brain and heart. This damage allows plaque. Kaya pag naharangan ni plaque yung arteries natin, it harder for enough blood and oxygen to get through to the cells. So in the heart, this can lead to heart attack and stroke kasi nga hindi na enough yung pag-supply ng oxygen para sa heart natin and blood. Next, we have the risk of developing acne. High sugar diets can increase androgen secretion, oil production, and inflammation, all of which can raise your risk of developing acne. So ito si high sugar diets, immediately siya na-absorb in our bloodstream. The high level sugar, they'll get into our cell, into
including cells in our face. Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng acne. That is why we need to be responsible in consuming added sugar because we can acquire different kinds of problems or diseases in our body.
High fructose corn syrup. So high fructose corn syrup is an artificial sugar made from corn syrup. And high fructose corn syrup is also made from corn and maize, which is usually genetically modified. So when we say genetically modified, it contains genetic material that has been artificially altered to produce a desired characteristics. So how is it produced? So the corn is first to produce cornstarch, which is then processed further, milled with corn syrup. So first, we will going to crush the corn, then going to separate the cornstarch from the other parts of the kernel. When we say kernel, is yung shape, parang shape siya ng corn. So we're going to separate that one. They will going to spin it ng paulit-ulit to pump the germ aware or refine into corn oil. Next is gluten and starch are suspended in liquid. A centrifuge removes gluten, leaving the starch. So, maghihiwalay sila. Then, 5, mag-a-add ng enzyme that converts starch to glucose. Maglagay lang ng maraming enzyme until maging fructose na siya. And adding low to medium sweetness glucose to fructose makes high fructose corn syrup. So that is the process in how to produce high fructose sugar. So that's it. Thank you for watching and I hope you guys learned. And if you have questions, you can comment down below if there is comment section. But if there is none, you can chat in our GC and we'll go into reply.